present Insights on Leadership and Life with your host, Roberta Pickett.
Welcome to Insights on Leadership and Life. I'm your host, Roberta Pickett, Leadership and Life Coach. And we are going to be talking tonight about a topic that I think most people experience throughout their life in some shape or form, and that's loss. There's many different kinds of loss. There's loss of love, there's loss of a relationship. You can lose your home or your job, or your physical capabilities. So it doesn't matter what the type of loss, it still affects us very deeply. And so the topic we're going to talk about tonight is surviving and thriving after loss. And with us tonight are two wonderful women who have experienced loss in their life, but in no way have let it stop them from moving forward. So tonight I'm thrilled to have with me Jackie Harrison Harmon and Martha Perez.
Nice to be here.
I'm glad to have you both here tonight. Life isn't fair. A lot of people try to tell us, life has to be fair. But I don't think life ever was fair. I don't think it ever will be. Things happen throughout our lives that affect us and have devastating effects from time to time. So fairness in life isn't what it's really about. I think it's about how we live with what happens to us, how we cope with it, and how we move on. And for me, you are two of the people who, in spite of what you've experienced, you're stronger as a result of it. I think what comes out of you is a deeper beauty, actually, as women. And you're a role model and an inspiration to others as a result of what you've experienced.
And that's very sweet of you, Roberta. Thank you.
You are welcome. But I think it's true. At least for me, that's why I asked you to be here tonight, because both of you represent that in my mind.
Thank you.
So we're going to have an opportunity later in the show to talk with each of you individually in quite a bit of depth. Mm-hmm. But when we get started, I'd like to let our audience know just a little bit about who you are and what you do and how you've come to be here. So, Jackie, you want to go first?
Sure. My name's again Jackie Harrison Harmon, and I've been an Amador County resident since about 2000. Permanent, I believe it was 2001 when I landed my job at Volcano Telephone. And I'm married to, newly married to my husband, Craig Harmon. Many of your viewers may know him. He works for the CHP out of the Jackson office, and he is my soulmate, my best friend, my rock, and he makes me laugh. And for those that you know him, he's quite funny, and I tell you, with the subject that we're discussing tonight, laughter is a big healer, at least in my life. It's been very helpful. Craig has 3 children: adult daughter Taylor, and then 2 young children who they come, Nick and Macy. They come and visit us every other weekend, and I am the proud mother of 2 daughters. My daughter Bailey, she's 12, and she is just beautiful. She's loving, she's kind. She's smart. She's just, it's a joy to watch her grow up and blossom into this beautiful young lady. And my other daughter, Kylie Monson, many of your viewers may remember her. She actually passed away almost 4 years ago. She had a brain tumor. She was diagnosed with, it's called DIPG, diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma, otherwise known as a brainstem glioma. There is no cure. there's treatment to temporarily keep the tumor from growing, but otherwise the life expectancy after diagnosis is about 9 months. So that then led me to want to do more after she passed. And because there really is so little funding for childhood cancer research, the government, the entire annual government-funded research for cancer for children is about 4%, which is just
4%
outrageous.
of everything that comes in
Yes.
from cancer.
4%, and that's, I mean, our kids are worth more than 4%.
Wow.
And then that's for the more common type, leukemia and that sort of thing. When with
So the 4% is the total of
yes, 4%.
focus towards children's cancers.
Yes.
Wow.
And so this one specific is much rarer.
Yes.
And therefore,
so then it gets even less
interesting.
money for research. And the government is the largest funder for research. And so it's a death sentence. I kind of refer to it as it's like a firing squad, and it just takes 9 months for the bullet to hit. And yeah, it's horrible because I've seen other, because of being involved in the Cure Starts Now, I had seen other children and it's the same story over and over again, and it's heartbreaking.
Definitely heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Well, I know there's a lot more to the story, and that's really, in segment 2, I really want to have an opportunity for you to tell more of the details about that. But, so you are, with the Cure Starts Now, you are the head of the California chapter, right?
California chapter
Congratulations.
director. Well,
Wow.
thank you.
Yeah,
thank
that's
you.
wonderful.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate to have this opportunity. Grateful for that, because it's really helped me a lot to be involved.
Well, good. Well, and so you have clearly, I'm sure that the anguish and the pain never goes away completely. Just thinking about it gets most of us. But to know that you have moved on, and you've got a life that you are sharing with Craig and his family and Bailey and a whole house full. You have a big house full when everybody's together. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, I again welcome and thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Good.
Appreciate it.
And Martha,
I can't talk now.
got choked up. I know. So
Yes.
a little bit about just high level your background and where,
My background, well,
or just how you
my
live in
life-
Jackson,
yes.
right?
Well, I
Or
come
are
from
you-
Mexico.
No, really?
I was born in Mexico. But anyway, we moved to Jackson in 1983, opened a Mexican restaurant in town, and
1983, you said?
1983.
Wow.
Yeah, we've been here almost 31 years. I've been here, and raised my family here. 3 of my own children, and then 6 more that we adopted, and they're all grown up, thank God. And they're all healthy and alive and good citizens, thank God. Anyway, it's been a long road. In 2002, I had a lawsuit with the American Disability Act that just, threw me off, because it was so horrifying, the things that happen and they make you do, and then at the end, after you do everything that they ask you to do, then they want a big bunch of money, and I didn't have it. I didn't have the money.
So this was with the restaurant,
That
right?
was with the restaurant, yes. And I got really frustrated and very, stressed. And I had a brain aneurysm. April 22nd of this year, it'll be 12 years I survived. Yoo-hoo!
Yes.
But anyway, it was hard. It was very hard to have to go through everything that I went through and still survive, but I think in my mind is you have to believe within yourself. When you go down, and I mean, wait till I tell you the rest of the story, it's you are not going to believe, insurances. Oh, come back and listen to me because
Right.
I want everybody to be aware of what happens with an insurance company. They find out you get sick.
Well, also with the stress. I mean, it went
Yes.
from one stress of the lawsuit to
Yeah,
the
to another
aneurysm, and then to what you're going to
yes.
tell us about
Yes.
afterwards. Well, I know both of you have so much to tell, and so we're going to, in segment 2, I'm going to interview Jackie more, and then segment 3, we'll talk to you some more. And in that last segment of this evening, I want to talk about actually the process of grief and the 5 stages they say people go through, and what it was like to really go through that process, and how you can help others who may be experiencing some loss in their lives to get through it. So we're going to be taking a little bit of a commercial break, and once we get back, we'll talk some more to Martha and well, actually, next segment we'll talk to Jackie. And again, thank you both for coming this evening to Insights on Leadership in Life, and thank you, our audience, for being here with us. And I'm Roberta Pickett, your host.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN. And now back to Insights on Leadership in Life with your host, Roberta Pickett.
Hi, welcome back to Insights on Leadership in Life. I'm your host, Roberta Pickett, and I'm here this evening with Jackie Harrison-Harmon. We are talking on the topic of surviving and thriving after loss. I met you, Jackie, a couple years ago. I was part of a fundraiser that we were doing to bake sweet potato pies, and it was in the kitchen at Volcano Telephone, and you walked in because you were going to pick up some pies that you'd ordered, and we got to talking, and you told me a little bit about your story, and right away my heart broke for you. As a mother, as a human being, it's just hard to fathom what it would be like to lose a child. And so that was the first time you shared your story with me. Can you tell the audience about what happened and how you got through it?
Well, I guess starting off with the symptoms, Kylie,
How old was she at the time?
she was 4 when her symptoms started. She started wetting her pants, and and sometimes that happens. I took her to the doctor and thought maybe she had a bladder infection,
Right.
and they, she didn't, and so we just figured, sometimes they, go back. And then she started getting fitful and separation anxiety, a lot of that. And my husband Craig, well, we were boyfriend and girlfriend at the time, he had been living with us for over a year, so we were thinking maybe she was acting out, wasn't getting the attention. So then she started falling a lot, so I started buying her different pairs of shoes, 2 different sizes.
So did you kind of just, they all seemed sort of normal?
Yeah.
And at that point, there was no indication
Yeah.
that something major was wrong.
Oh, I kept referring to the what to expect, the toddler years for
Gotcha.
things. And because she also started having night terrors. And then when she was a baby, she had car sickness really bad when she was a baby, and then it stopped, and then she started getting car sick again. So I just assumed, she's getting, it's back again. And let's see, the falling, and then she, I'm trying to think here, probably one of the last symptoms was I would look in the rearview mirror and I would see her eyes, and her eyes wouldn't always blink simultaneously.
Oh,
And
interesting.
And then she had this funny tilt to her head, and she didn't have bangs, so we thought that she was just trying to look through her hair, and it turns out that it's double vision. But she was 4, and so she didn't know how to
communicate what was
right,
she was experiencing.
Right. So anyway, at child enrichment, she was going to preschool up there, and Miss Jerry, she told me one day, she said, I think Kylie needs to go to the doctor because she runs around like crazy, and then she just lays down and I'm just exhausted. Maybe she's anemic. So I made an appointment for her to see the doctor, and so that was going to be the following Wednesday. Well, then that Thursday when I went to pick her up, let's see, so that was on a Wednesday. And that weekend she was with her father. And when I went to pick her up, she was throwing up.
So it was escalating very rapidly.
Yeah. Well, actually, after her diagnosis, they said if I hadn't gotten her in when I did, that she would have only survived about 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. But anyway, so when I picked her up, she mentioned something about she had an earache. She just said, my ear hurts. So I immediately thought, it's an ear infection.
Right.
So I called the doctors on Monday morning and got her in. And, we left there with a diagnosis of the stomach flu. And so then by that Thursday, when I went to pick Kylie up from child enrichment, Miss Jerry she sat me down and she said, another mom who's a nurse observed Kylie today, and Kylie had ran into a tree that day. Luckily, she didn't have any, major injuries from that, but she said the other mom said, that was my child, I would take her to emergency and insist.
So again, was that the double vision you think that was?
Well, that and their gait gets off.
Yeah,
because she was falling a lot. So I took her down to Sutter Amador, and they gave her, did a CT scan on her and diagnosed her. And thankfully, they didn't tell me at the time that it was terminal, because I don't think I could have handled all that information all in one night. So they ambulanced us to Sutter Memorial, and they did an MRI on her the following day, and confirmed it. And her oncologist came into the room, and she just said, Kylie's life is going to be shortened, and to about 9 months. And it was just, How
do you take in those words and grasp them?
Unbelievable, And
do you feel like there was anything that led up, throughout your earlier life that prepared you for going through this?
Growing up, I grew up around a lot of dysfunction. As a child, my parents were divorced when I was about 2, and so my father was an alcoholic. My stepfather was an alcoholic. So I grew up with a lot of fear, and then as I went into adulthood, a lot of that partying kind of lifestyle followed me. And but then when I started having children, I didn't want my children to be in that environment, but it had a real strong grip on me. And so I entered into a 12-step program.
Oh, boy.
And through that, I came to believe in a higher power, in God. And that just and when I did, all those fears in life, I was a single mom, raising 2 daughters, how do I do this financially, everything, can I do this? And I just let all that go and just turned it all over to God.
So you think about, it just gave me the shivers hearing your story there, but in a strange way, having gone through that hardship of drinking too much and having problems with alcohol, actually in some ways was a godsend that you did, because you had that higher power to fall back on when this all fell apart.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And then when Craig came along, it's like, again, I released all my fears, the first date.
And this was before
she was
Kylie got
diagnosed.
sick.
Yeah. The first date, and you're worried, you're scared, is he going to like me? And then I just let it go. It's like, if this is meant to be, it will happen. And we've been inseparable ever since. So I told many friends before Kylie was diagnosed that my life was perfect. It was truly perfect. And I also told people that I thought God was preparing me for something really bad to happen.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. It was, several occasions I said that.
Just something you felt.
I don't know. Well, I just felt like my life was too good. It was just, it felt too good.
Too good. Too perfect.
Yeah. And so something really, really bad happened. And so
from the time she was diagnosed to the time she passed away, how much
10
time?
months.
10 months.
10 months. Yes.
So this is a picture, many
Yes.
pictures of her.
Yes.
So when she was 4, right?
This was her 4th birthday. We were at Disneyland. And this is after she was diagnosed. And one of the things that they give children with brain tumors is Decadron. And it's a very high-powered steroid. And
Causes the swelling.
they become eating machines. All they care about is eating. And so she went from 43 pounds to 58 pounds in a matter of weeks. And it also can cause depression, and she was very depressed. It was very sad. We'd be going to Sacramento because she had to have treatment. She had to have 6.5 weeks of radiation.
Was part of that, so the radiation was to try to see if they could eliminate it or reduce it, or just to slow it down?
They try to shrink it, which it did shrink. And the thing is with radiation is it only lasts it usually lasts for about
really?
3, it works. It continues to work for about 3 to 6 months after treatment. But then in this case, only, about 80% of the children that receive radiation does it actually work. And so she was one of those 80%. So it did shrink. So this is actually after when she went through sort of like a good period.
Right.
But even with the good period, it was hard to go through that because I'm looking at my child and I know she's going to die. I was consumed with fear especially when I first found out. I was so fearful of. I've never seen anybody die. What is this going to look like? Is she going to know she's going to die? Is she going to ask me if she's going to die? How am I going to tell my older daughter that her sister's going to die? It's just
it's not only what was going on within you, but you're trying to extrapolate and try to figure out what's going on with her and within her. And speaking of that, what about Bailey? How is it for her? We only have a minute or so left, but can you...
Bailey, she had this is what commonly happens. I mean, I literally...
ignored her.
Bailey was out,
You bailed on her for a while.
Yeah, and I know my child is only going to be here for so long, and I just poured all my attention into her, and so Bailey had a tough time because her sister, at the age she was at,
she had both. She knew something bad was happening, yet there was the same thing to her. She was being, what about me?
Yeah.
In spite of, because it's real too. It's her life.
Right. Yeah. So it was hard for her.
So, one thing you mentioned earlier that you are involved in the Cure Starts Now. Where can people donate if they want to?
They can go to www.thecurestartsnow.org.
Okay.
And that's their main website. And then I am the California chapter director. So you can get to the chapter if you want to.
So I know, there's so much more we could talk about, and I'd love to talk more, but it is, this particular disease is always fatal, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate and just want to say thank you for what you continue to do, that you're not letting it stop you, but you're moving forward to help other children who have it, and also to come back and to focus in on your life and your family. And so we're going to come back and talk to you more in the final segment. Right now we're going to take a short commercial break, and we will be right back in a few minutes with insights on leadership in life. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN. And now back to Insights on Leadership in Life with your host, Roberta Pickett.
Hi, welcome back to Insights on Leadership in Life. I'm Roberta Pickett, your host, and we're talking tonight about surviving and thriving after loss. And in this segment, my guest is Martha Perez. And welcome back again.
Thank you.
Martha. Almost everybody in Amador County knows you.
Almost.
I remember meeting you actually right here because I was invited to sit in on one of TSPN's other programs called Just Between Us.
Right.
And Susie Miller was the host, and you were sitting over here, and it was like, who is this woman? But right off the get-go, I was intrigued by your energy and your sense of humor and your love of life.
Oh, thank you.
That's what impressed me about you. And, you know, as I've gotten to know you over the last couple of years, I really realized there's so much of you to share. And I think you do have
Yes.
I think you do have a story to tell.
Yes, I do.
And you have things that people can learn from in their lives. So you came from Mexico, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I was born in Mexico. I was actually born in Tijuana, which I used to be embarrassed to say. Now I feel proud that I made it out of there.
Good.
But you know, when I lived there, we had to support ourselves and help our mother support all the kids, because she had 6 children. And so I was the oldest. So I had to learn to make piñatas, to make tamales, to make snow cones, to sell newspapers. And you know, people go, oh, poor little girl. I feel that helped me so much to be a survivor, to fight back, to learn to be a salesperson, to learn to, you know, cannot let somebody abuse me, and
Well, you also
all
had
of this,
responsibility.
and
You were
all the
given
responsibility
responsibility and
since very
learning.
young.
Yeah.
And you know, when I came to the United States after I got married, it was shocking, you know, to be in a country where you don't speak the language, you know. But I always been one that I want to learn, I want to do it. And then when I saw those waitresses making all those dollars, I said, I got to learn English quick. Within 6 months, I learned to communicate. You know, I still don't know perfect English, but I can communicate with people. And if I was going to make money, trust me, I was going to learn the language quick. So I did.
That's impressive.
And we lived in Monterey for a little while, and then we moved to Placerville. We were working for another couple that they were opening restaurants. And finally, in 1983, we decided to move to Jackson. And I fell in love with Jackson the moment we started going down the hill. And I told my husband and then Jose,
This is it.
this is it. This is it. I had not even seen the restaurant, but I figured, you know, who can say no to this view? You know, that view where you see Butte Mountain. Oh my God, it's just amazing. But anyway, in 1983, we opened the restaurant, and it was not easy. You know, coming into a county when there's no other Hispanic people around, it was very hard.
There weren't
There
back
wasn't
then?
very much. No,
Interesting. Huh.
not very much. But, you know, I said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. If it's the last thing I do in my life, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to be successful at what I do. So we opened the restaurant, and in 2002, we had a lawsuit with the American Disability, which did not, that law did not exist when we opened the restaurant. So nobody tells you, this is the new law, this is what you're supposed to do. Somebody just walks in and gives you a lawsuit, and you just go, what? And then you find out all the things that you have to do. So I did everything. By that time, I owned the business by myself because my husband and I got a divorce. And so the pressure was on me. So I did all the work that they asked me, and then after that, the American Disability guy that sued me, they wanted, the attorney wanted $150,000, and doesn't sound like a lot, but when you don't have it, because you spend everything you had,
like
in your business. Anyway, I just said, I can't do this anymore. I just can't. The pressure became so high, and I had a brain aneurysm that totally stressed me out, and I almost died.
Right.
And just about 3 months before, and I want everybody to listen to this one because I had insurance. I wanted to live the American way. I wanted to do it right. I wanted to do everything the way that, it's supposed to be done.
Right. So you had insurance.
I had insurance.
So when you had the aneurysm,
After I had the aneurysm,
it should have been
bills,
paid for.
after I came home, bills started coming in. And I said, wait a minute, I have insurance. Why are they sending me the bills? I still had all the staples in my brain, up here, and I'm like stressing out again, I called the insurance company and they said, oh, the person that sold you the insurance has no license to sell insurance. I said, and what does that have to do with me? You've been taking my money. And they go, no, we're going to return your money. I said, no. I got attorneys and everything, but when you fight against big companies like that, so $450,000 later that I had to pay back. Yes, ma'am.
And so did they reimburse you for the amount?
No.
So they were taking your money.
Yes, they were taking
my
money.
And then they claimed that you had no coverage.
Yes.
Because the person who sold it to you.
It is, did not have a license. His wife is the one that had the license.
So that's enough to put you back
So we
in the
tried
hospital.
suing the man that sold me the insurance, but they filed bankruptcy. So there I was again on a hole, and I thought, how am I going to get back up, And I thought to myself, God, you got me here, now you get me out. That's what I did. And then my doctor told me, you can't have, because I was a real estate agent back then, and I was the owner of the restaurant, and my doctor said, Martha, you can't do both jobs. I said, why not? Feisty little me, And he goes, because the pressure in your brain, you can't handle that right now, Going back to when I had the aneurysm, they took me to the hospital. They told my children I was going to die,
Well.
That my chances were 5%. Yeah.
So you had to come to terms with that inside yourself, going into the operation.
And this is one of the things that I love to tell people, and I want them to get the strength and just hold on to it, because no matter how horrible things are, something happens. I don't know what it is. You might call it God, you might call it a spirit, you might call it an energy, you can call it whatever you want. I call it God for me. And I believe that everything was going to be okay. Don't ask me how I knew. I just believed, and I got that strength within myself. But when my kids were sitting there crying because their mom was going to die, it wasn't easy.
Because you were there too. You could see them crying. You heard them crying.
Yes.
You knew that they were going through pain, and there was nothing you could do at that moment, at least, to change it.
I don't know how that just gives you something, and you become so strong that you're not going to let anybody or anything get you down. You think positive, you believe in yourself, and not everybody has it, maybe, I'm one of the lucky ones that I have it. God gave me the strength.
Do you remember the last thing you thought before they put you out, before they gave you the anesthesia? Do you remember what your thought was?
I don't remember that. All I remember, this is weird. You're going to think it's weird that I remember sitting up here somewhere, looking down at me in the bed, and my kids all around it. And then I remember seeing me in the operating room too. And then I remember I was going somewhere. I don't remember seeing a light like everybody says. I just remember
floating off.
Somebody goes, "Oh, it was the drugs." I don't care what you think. I'm the one that experienced it. Okay, you can't tell me it was the drugs, because why would I remember that over and over and over again? And then all of a sudden, when I was getting near to that something that I was seeing over there, so peaceful and quiet and wonderful, it's just all of a sudden it was like psh, gone. And I probably just came back to life,
That's when you came back.
But I know that I was going.
It's interesting. My mother had a similar experience that it would be almost, if she described it, it would be almost exactly the same as you described it just now.
And it's an experience that you never forget.
Yeah, she did.
And so every day today, I'm so grateful that I'm here. I'm so grateful I get to see my grandkids. I'm so grateful I get to see
Well, they get to see you too.
my customers. I please all my customers, and I still can work hard, Although this ADA thing, I still fight. I learned so many things, that gave me strength, like Jackie,
Yeah.
And I'm doing things for the American Disability Act so that more people don't get lawsuits like I did.
That's good. And I know you've gone on to become very involved in the community in many boards, and you're on Operation Care Board now.
Operation Care Board,
And
yes. Many things that I've done, and I do it because of the love to the community,
Well, you are an amazing woman, and I continue to believe that. I know.
Thank you.
I want to talk in our last segment about how you actually moved on from there, and Jackie too. So thank you for your insights, and we're going to then take another quick break. I can't believe how fast the time flies.
I know.
And we'll be back in just a few minutes with more on insights on leadership in life.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN. And now back to Insights on Leadership in Life with your host, Roberta Pickett.
Hi, welcome back to Insights on Leadership in Life. I'm your host, Roberta Pickett, and I've been talking with guests Jackie Harrison Harmon and Martha Perez this evening about surviving and thriving after loss. And I think that's something that's very clear, that both of you not only went through some very tough times for very different reasons, but you've gone on and you haven't just survived it, but you are continuing to thrive in your life. And that's something I think that all of us, when something bad happens to us, we wonder, how am I going to get through it? How can I survive this pain that I'm experiencing? And I know it's been described that there's 4 stages of grief, and I think that grief comes not just from losing a loved one, but from any type of loss. So the first one is denial and isolation. The second one is anger. The third one is bargaining. The fourth one is depression. And the fifth one is acceptance. So if you think about that, denial and isolation is the first stage. With what you experienced, Jackie, you remember going through that?
Well,
Sense of denial?
the whole step thing, it's an ongoing process, and I don't remember there ever being a certain
clear differentiation.
Yeah. So it's hard. I guess the acceptance thing was a big thing for me, was the accepting that this was what was happening. And I had to come to terms with that. Very difficult, but I had to accept it.
You have a beautiful angel watching over you.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yeah.
So you and my guess, and then the guess goes for both of you with these stages. I mean, they've been defined this way, but I don't think it's as if you get to day 3 and all of a sudden you've moved on. It doesn't happen that way. I would also imagine that you float back and forth. I mean, you may be in acceptance today, and all of a sudden you're back to anger, and you're ticked off at the world or at God or whatever. Is that true, or did you go back and forth?
In regards to anger never was a big part for me. I wasn't angry at God. I knew that it wasn't anything. Well, there was a time where I went, where I thought, what did I do? What did I do to cause this to happen?
I have to tell you a story about that.
You too, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean everything crazy, everything from I put my cat to sleep, and just all these crazy kind of ideas. And
it pops in. I know my son got spinal meningitis when he was 9 months old and went into a coma for a week, and we didn't know if we were going to lose him. And I remember asking, what did I do? How did I
asked that question.
Yeah.
I have 4 olive trees. I have one where I pray all the time. And I went to the olive tree and I said, God, am I a bad person? Did I do something wrong? Show me what I did wrong so I can fix it. And I don't know if it was God talking to me or my little voice in my head or whatever it is. But again, this little voice said, Martha, I had a son that I sent down to the world.
Aww.
And look what happened to him. Did you ever find out that my son was a bad person? So, and look what happened to him. So, girl, what do you expect?
Yeah.
So, I kind of learned those things, and I kind of try to understand that the world's going to be the way it is, and you just have to learn to survive. And you have to learn other people to just understand that it's not bad luck. Yeah, you can make bad luck by making bad decisions in your life, but you have to stay positive and you have to stay, focused on what you believe and what you want out of life. And if you want everybody to feel sorry for you, you poor baby, and don't do anything like Jackie, she turned around and now she's working with
The Cure Starts Now.
The Cure Starts Now.
Yes, and with me, I'm working with the American Disability Act. I'm working with the Sports for the World children, where we take sports equipment, to different parts of Mexico. I'm just,
You're involved, and that's
and that's what makes me thrive. That's what gives me energy. That's what makes me feel good. That that
you're
I'm
giving
making
back,
a difference.
and you're
making a difference. Might not be a big difference, but if every person put a little rock, we will make a big mountain, of the things that we want to do in life.
Absolutely.
And that's what I believe.
And the interesting thing is nobody would feel badly if either, people who go through hard times, if you didn't thrive afterwards. You would understand because life is difficult, and yet you have withstood and moved on. You mentioned that Craig has been your rock, and having that support was really helpful for you, as well as your belief in God and your that. And for you, Martha, you, obviously
my children, my customers, my friends.
Yeah.
I had so much support, that I'm very lucky. Very, very lucky.
So that says something too, is having people in your life that and having good relationships. And it sounds funny, but I think about young people, when we first get out of, well, even in high school or whatever, you don't necessarily have the best relationships. You may not hang always around with the right people or to make the right decisions, but how important that is to have good relationships in your life.
I think, you know what has helped me a lot, Roberta? It's making fun of life. When I came home after having my aneurysm, I came home and I thought, because it was packed full of flowers, people that I didn't even know. I mean, my whole living room was packed full of flowers. And I said, I wonder if they thought I died. But jokingly, you know, you just have to laugh about life and you just have to make fun of it, because what good does it do you to cry, and don't do something about it?
You mentioned something similar. You said that Craig makes you laugh. So what is it about laughter for you?
It's incredibly healing.
It's a medicine.
Yeah.
It's a medicine. It's a healing way of making you feel good within yourself. That's how I feel, you know, because when I laugh about it, I just kind of forget, you know, and I don't hold grudges. I don't hate the men that sue me. I don't hate, you know, the men that sold me the insurance and my insurance wasn't good. I don't hate. I'm grateful there were doctors that were able to cure me, you know, after they told my children that they didn't know. They were going to go there and do exploratory surgery and see why wasn't I dying, because I was sitting there for, you know, days and days and days, and I wasn't going anywhere.
Well, why aren't you dying?
That's what the doctor told me. So, you know, we just decided to do that, Martha, because I kept coming back every day, and you look at me with a big, huge smile. Like, why isn't she going?
Why do you think some people don't come back? Why do you think some people get hardened after a major loss in their life?
Negative thinking.
Well, I'll let her answer.
To me, that's...
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah.
What characteristics did you draw on inside yourself to be able to move on?
Well, like I was saying, with the involvement of just being involved with the Cure Starts Now, being involved with other families that were, you know, what is that, the misery loves company, you know.
Well, you could relate to each other. You could feel each other's pain.
Right. Yeah. So that really, you know, helped me a lot. It was just getting involved.
Back and involved.
Right. And reading. I did a lot of reading. And, you know, and something we didn't get to talk about in the second segment was the whole idea of heaven.
Oh.
Because when Kylie was sick, you know, nobody really talks about heaven, and you know, and so we started reading heaven books. Well, Kylie didn't want that. She actually said, "I don't want to go to heaven. I want to stay on earth."
Oh.
So I was reading to her
out of a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And I was reading to both of them, and so I just continued to read to Bailey, and then we were able.
But she could hear.
Yes. So we were able to have some conversations about the fact that, you know, like we were driving down the road one day, and she saw a tree that was dead, and she goes, "Mommy, if that tree was in heaven, it wouldn't be dead." You know? And so that just really, you know, warms my heart to know that she had, you know, had that belief.
You know, at that age.
Yeah.
We can learn a lot from children.
Oh, yeah.
That's for sure.
I read a beautiful quote today that it kind of made me think about what loss is. And it's an epigram from the Sufi religion, but it says, "When the heart grieves over what it has lost, the spirit rejoices over what it has left." And I thought, that's true, you know, and you know, you only had her for a short time, but what a blessing she was in your life, right?
Yeah, and I'll see her. Yeah,
and you'll see her. So, are there any quotes that you have, Martha, real quick?
Do I have any quotes?
Quotes. And español
En
or in
español,
English.
por favor.
Yeah,
Well, no, just keep going.
yeah,
Believe in what you believe. Stay focused. You know, it's like, it is what it is.
yeah.
That's one of my favorite quotes.
Well, to me, both of you are great examples of people who have lost and yet continued to, and grieved, and yet you've continued to come on and to make your life whole and to give back to your families and your friends and your community. And I think that's really beautiful. You're an example for all of us to learn from. Thank you very much, Martha
you.
and Jackie, and
Thank
good night.
you.
And
Thank
thank
you.
you all
Good
for
night.
joining us on Insights on Leadership and Life. We'll see you next month.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.